Welcome back to the Talos of Tech podcast, ladies and gentlemen. It's open mic night because, Mike, we're so sorry you couldn't come on last week's show. We couldn't get the schedule down. But you've got some new hardware. You've got some new setups that we need to hear about. And also, just for the record, I don't know if you saw or listened to last week's show, but if you have any thoughts, feel free to weigh in on Nick's situation or anything we said that you were like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that.
It was so controversial. I remember listening to it last week, and it was like, man, why would Nick say something like that about Jimmy Carter?
Oh no.
Anyways, yes, I'm very
Outlive
much
the queen.
Oh,
Bingo.
here they go. So I'm
The
a proud
queen's
owner.
dead?
I am now a proud owner of a white, kind of like Drew's, iPhone 14 Pro. Man, the camera sensors are massive.
Oh, wow.
It's a
Yeah.
very massive. You can't really see
Wow.
it too much on the camera, but like,
That's
I
a big
put,
jump.
Or I posted some pictures on Twitter of the difference, and man, like, I thought the 11 Pro was a stovetop, and that's why I made fun of it. I think I mentioned this like 2 weeks ago on the podcast, but looking at this in person now, the 14 Pro's camera sensor, wow. It is huge.
Wow.
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 And then, of course, comparing it to like the 5S, it's minuscule.
Oh, yeah. I think it's like the 11 Pro is electric stove and the 14 Pro is like a gas stove top
Kinda, yeah.
because
I
they
don't know.
stick
You
out.
could get some pretty big
14
electric
Pro looks
stove.
like the bottom of a rocket. Just
Yeah.
Merlin engines ready to cap off.
Ready
and
to
all
go
that, yeah.
far out.
Oh, stop.
ha ha.
I did
Randy,
get
you need to be making these jokes. You're going to be a dad soon.
Yeah, where's the dad jokes, Randy?
People don't seem to like my dad joke humor. They think I'm too dark, and I'm like,
That's
we
the
are
point.
we are
you're
in
not
some
supposed to
very
like it.
vanilla stuff right now. People think I'm making mean jokes about my kid or whatever. I'm like, oh no. Mike is gonna have a dark sense of humor. I already see it. Anyway.
Right.
So-
So I got a clear case with it, and it's pretty nice as well.
Ooh.
I still am thinking about getting a screen protector or something else because I tend to drop my phone, but I
Yeah.
need to find a good one. But Dynamic Island, pretty cool. Pretty much the same thoughts as Drew and Nick on the Dynamic Island and all that. Randy, I don't know if you've gotten a phone yet from Target or Best Buy at this point.
We'll wait for my turn. You first. We'll do a lap.
Okay.
We'll do a lap around.
Yeah, but otherwise, I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty happy. I'm glad that I upgraded, even if the 15 is like a huge upgrade next year. I definitely needed it, and surprisingly, I did not turn off 120 hertz. I tried it out for a couple of days. I'm like, okay, I think I can live with this.
You can get by with 120.
Right. One thing that I thought I was going to keep on is the always-on display. And I noticed, because I usually have tunes or a YouTube video up while I'm at work, just background noise and all that, I'd only get like 4 or 5, maybe 5 or 6 hours of battery life. And then I switched it to not always off display. I turned off always on display. And it shot up to like, I think 8 or 9 hours. So
Really?
from firsthand, I'm like, okay, it's not worth it having always on display. And I got used to it after like a day or two. It took a bit. I'm like, okay, I think I can get used to it. But after like dealing with the battery, I'm like, I think I'm fine with it just being the way it is, and then enjoying my lock screen whenever it comes on and all that.
Yeah.
But
No, I turned it off on mine too. I just couldn't get not for battery reasons. I just couldn't get comfortable with it.
right. So yeah, otherwise it's been a good experience after a week of owning it. I got it. Has it been a week? Yeah. Wait.
About almost or so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been about a week. I got it like in the afternoon on Friday. So not as quick as you, Drew, but I've had a good solid week with it, and I've enjoyed every single time I look at it. And the screen looks great. The pictures look good in my opinion. And
I have a
otherwise,
question, since
it's a solid
you got
upgrade.
the 6.1 inch model, which as far as I'm aware, none of none of the rest of us have. But how does that do with MagSafe Duo? Does it lay in charge, or does it like stick out a little bit because of the bump?
I'm glad you asked this. So on MagSafe Duo, it does. I mean, it does sit at a weird incline. Like maybe half the ring is in somewhat contact with the MagSafe Duo ring, while the other part's just lifted, and it charges pretty quick anyways. It's a really quick charging phone.
Okay.
The issue that I found, though, is I can't charge it on anything else, or else it heats up and causes a temperature warning, where if I charge it on my wireless charger at work, which is like an old Samsung 45-degree angle or whatever mount that kind of just sits on, after like maybe 10 minutes, the phone will start heating up and give a temperature warning. And then the same with the Tesla, which is a bit of a bummer because I like having my phone on this wireless charger there, and it just heats up, and then I see temperature warning. I'm like, well, I wanted to get it charged today, or on the way home, but whatever.
Yeah, that's concerning.
That's a bit of a bummer with how big the camera sensor is, and I don't think there's any way to fix it.
You think that's the problem? It's the bump is making it incline too far?
Yes, and so whatever connection there is from the Qi charger and the MagSafe ring and all that is causing a lot of resistance or thermal heating to occur. And
interesting.
Because of that, the phone just heats up and it might damage the battery. So
heat's not good.
Yeah, so I haven't really charged it at work, and if I do, I plug it in instead of using a wireless charger. And then in the car, usually because the camera sensor is so large and the incline is so severe, whenever I take a turn, the phone already just shifts. It already shifts over to the right or left. So it ends up like sitting on the middle divider for the wireless charger in the car. So it just doesn't charge in the car anymore. But that's okay. It's got a good battery life, so I don't really need it as much compared to my 11 Pro. So it's not...
Well, I know this isn't like a permanent solution, but have you tried wirelessly charging without the case in the car and at work?
I could try that. That's something that I can report on next week, but I have not, and I don't think the reason why I haven't is because I don't see a reason to take off the case unless I'm showing off the phone like I was at the beginning of the podcast. Otherwise, why take off the case if I'm very prone to dropping things?
Yeah, you want to protect it, which is why I admit that's not a great solution. But I'm curious if that's just something to do with the case, or if that's something to do with the camera design fundamentally.
So one of your concerns, I think, that you had either last week or the week before is the lenses resting on surfaces because the case may not encompass it. But the case does stick out a good amount where the sensor, or at least the lenses, are protected. So it makes it even bigger than it is.
That's what makes me wonder if that extra incline is because of the case.
Right. So that's maybe something that I can explore. But
I still think that's a design flaw if that's true, though, because most people do use a case. So if you design the phone and it can't wirelessly charge unless it's out of its case, that's still a bummer.
Exactly. So that's something that I've kind of learned to live with in the past week, and it's not a deal breaker. It's not making me want a new camera sensor layout for the 14 or the 15 necessarily. I think it'd be nice that the 15 finally takes a design change on the back of the phone since we've had it since the 11 Pro.
I feel like it should, especially if they adopt the periscope lens. That's just going to look... I don't know how they can easily work that into the stovetop design. Like, we've had the stovetop since 2019 now, so it would make sense to me that maybe the 15, or if the periscope lens is delayed till the 16, we get a rearranged camera design. But
sure.
What Apple will probably come up with something really, really controversial that we can all argue about and then get used to. So I'm excited for whatever that controversial camera design is.
Apple doing something controversial? Yeah. Also, that reminds me, the eSIM, easy process with Verizon.
Okay.
Because that's who my carrier is. It was easy peasy. I think I had to put in a Verizon pin on my account. And then it asked if I wanted to download specific things. I'm like, yeah, I want this, but not that, and this and not that. And it's like, okay, you're done then. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
Because usually every single phone upgrade I do, I like to refresh a bit with like the app layout and all that.
You don't restore from a backup then?
No. So that's
Me
probably
neither.
what made it easy, and also what made me avoid a lot of the issues that people were having, I think, reportedly with the phone slowing down or something else when trying to migrate information from a previous phone to this phone. So I somehow dodged that bullet just by being lazy. Or lazy by being proactive with being different with the new design and new app layout that I've got. But otherwise, I've enjoyed every minute of it. Randy, tell me, did you get a Target iPhone 14? Because I'm interested.
What a transition.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm only interested because during the time
just
I
like,
was...
I love every minute of it. Randy, where's the...
I want to know. So for context, I was listening to the tech podcast last week when I was in the dentist. So that was the only thing I could really focus on without like feeling drilling on my teeth. So
Because you were grinding your teeth listening to us all week.
basically, and
We're gonna-
controversial takes on Jimmy Carter.
We're gonna wait my turn. Skip it because Drew has an update. Nah, I trust it because I'll be talking for a minute. But
Randy knows he's saving the best for last. I think he's well aware. I am the best.
I think I know what's coming.
we're drawing conclusions too quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's coming now.
So no, Drew in his own, speaking of controversies, stuck it to the fans, and I wanted to kind of actually do a little more of a deep dive here on something with you, but you are not going to keep the 14 Pro Max, despite
Correct.
everyone saying, "I knew it. He's going to keep it. We know.
There's no SIM in this thing.
Ooh."
There was no
How
SIM
much
in it
longer? How much longer before you send
There's
it
no
back?
eSIM in this thing.
There's no eSIM, right? There never was a SIM in it.
SOS. Yeah, it's all switched out, and you can definitely tell because there's no Tesla app anymore. So,
Oh no.
I have until the end of the month to file for the return, and then once I file, I have 4 or 5 days after that. So, in the next couple days.
Are you? Yeah. So okay, you're not holding on to it till the end of the month.
I'm just holding on to it because my review was all shot on iPhone,
Right.
and I was intentionally trying to do like I'll review the camera by doing the whole video shot on the iPhone. That ended up being a big mistake, as the channel members saw. Cinematic mode took forever to get off the phone, and it was not AirDrop's fault. It was not Lightning's fault. It had nothing to do with the I/O or the transfer speeds. It was just the A16 chip had to embed the depth data of cinematic mode into the video file, because that is stored in its own proprietary way when you have it on an iPhone. But as soon as you AirDrop it to a Mac, then it has to basically re-export the entire video. And that process was freezing, and it would crash, and it wouldn't complete. So I had the whole video recorded, and I was just like, what do I do? How do I get this off the phone? And it took forever. I actually, because I think it was overheating, the phone was getting really hot and then saying, cannot process this video right now, try again later. Because it's squared off, I propped it up on the desk and left it standing upright and pointed my desk fan directly at the back. And then it stayed cool enough to finish the entire video processing. And then it AirDropped. Once the AirDrop started, it actually went pretty quick. It wasn't that bad. But I was looking at the footage because I was like, hey, this is going to be one of the few times I can record 4K cinematic mode, so I might as well do it. But of course, it was a pretty long video. It was like 25 minutes before I cut it down. And I was looking at the footage when I first tested it before I shot the review. I was like, let me make sure I can AirDrop cinematic mode and HDR doesn't break it. And I just did like a 20-second clip and it AirDropped fine. And I was like, no, this looks really good. Like, I'm impressed with cinematic mode in 4K. Like, that looks nice. Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. Maybe I should keep the iPhone and use it as a dedicated camera, since cinematic mode looks almost as good as the Blackmagic. It's, not quite there, but it's pretty good. And then the processing took like an hour, and I was like, that's why I don't do this. I just remembered this would take forever if I had to do this every day. It's ridiculous. So, and that would not be fixed even if the iPhone had Thunderbolt, for the record. That's purely just the way the software works on the phone. So
you're telling me this year is the year of overheating Apple products with the M2 chip and the A16 chip?
I guess it's fair to say, though, I was probably not a super common use case, recording like a 20-plus minute video at 4K cinematic.
Right.
Maybe a lot of people want to do that, but it's just a red flag that if you're thinking of, I'll just record all my videos in cinematic mode for my channel, and you want to record longer videos, that might be a huge bottleneck, just the way iOS works. So
yeah, imagine.
I think, to be fair,
recording.
though, I think people end up cutting in between certain takes, so it's not
True.
spaced out into like a 30-plus minute footage and then reduced down to a 20. So
if you're doing a bunch of like 2-minute clips, it's probably not that bad.
Yeah, Anyway, yeah.
But my style of filming, if you're the kind of person that just hits record and then goes for a while, then that may be problematic.
How long did it take when you had it in front of the fan then? Like maybe 15 minutes?
It's more like 40, 45. It was not quick. It was not a quick process
Almost double.
by any means.
Double.
And
the
that was
time
after
to
the
process
troubleshooting. Probably took 15 minutes for me. Like, I tried to plug it in straight to the computer, and Final Cut has a little import process, but it doesn't have the depth data. It just gives you a basic 4K at 30 file, and it's not blurry. It doesn't have the cinematic effect. So I was like, well, that kind of defeats the whole point of shooting in cinematic mode. Right. If I was not going to have the depth data, I would just record at the normal 4K at 60. But yeah, so that's not my only problem with the phone. But yeah, I'm all switched back. It was actually a little bit more complicated to get the eSIM back on my 13 Pro Max than I thought it was going to be. So
you've gone eSIM to 13 Pro now, not hard.
Right. You were going to have to call Mint, I think, if I wanted to port back to the physical SIM. But and I don't like calling people. So I
This is true, I can attest. He does not
I was
call.
going to say, this explains many things.
He does not call me. Ever.
I'm not a caller, but I knew how simple it was to set up the eSIM on the 14, and I was like, oh, that's easy. I'll just do that on my 13. So you just through the Mint mobile app say, this is my phone, put this eSIM on this one. But Apple freaked out a bit because I think the physical SIM it still thought was active. So once I added the eSIM back to my 13 Pro, it was like, oh, you're on dual SIM. You have a primary and a business line now. And I was like, what? No, like this is supposed to be the same phone number. And so I had to take the physical SIM out to convince the iPhone that it was not in dual SIM mode. And then it reverted back to having one SIM. But Apple ID was still freaking out. Like I was green for a lot of people. I was sending texts not through iMessage, and my share name and contact photo wasn't working. And I went into Apple ID settings, and it says you can't do that feature because there's multiple phone numbers associated with this Apple ID. And I was like, why is there multiple phone? So what I figured out was my 14 Pro Max still had an eSIM in it that was active. So technically I had one phone number, but it was attached to two separate phones. And I think Apple was freaking out about two different IMEI numbers or whatever. And so I was like, oh, maybe this will fix it. So I went into cellular settings on the 14, deleted the eSIM, and then Apple started working normally again. So I think I got it figured out. But I was hoping to do a video, honestly. I actually recorded a bunch of it of a lot of people are going to be transitioning to eSIM. So I thought I'll do a little tutorial that shows, here's how you switch to eSIM. And I filmed part of it, and it wasn't working the way I thought it was. So I was like, maybe I shouldn't do this video if I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not an expert in this field. and I'm still playing around with how these SIMs work and everything. So I was like, yeah, it is a little annoying opposed to just having a little SIM tool. But I'm hoping that, because there's a feature that Apple baked in to iOS that just has this like hold iPhone nearby to another iPhone, and it just has a little pop-up that says transfer phone number. But when I tried to do that on my 2 iPhones, it said your carrier doesn't support this. So that's probably the fault of Mint. But I'm hoping this eSIM push is what like encourages carriers to start supporting that like simplified Apple handoff feature where you just hold 2 iPhones next to each other and say, put this number in this phone. And it goes, okay. And then it just ports over. That way it's essentially the same thing as popping out a physical SIM, putting it in the other. It's just being done virtually, which I prefer because I had to dig out this SIM tool from our junk drawer in the kitchen, and I didn't know where it was, and I was having to look for it and everything. I was like, yeah, you know what? I wouldn't mind if I didn't have to do this anymore. I wouldn't mind if that could all be done virtually. It requires a lot on the carrier, but I think ultimately it will be nicer in the future to not have a physical
You know
card
what's sad
that you have to
about
track.
moving away from the SIM tray now?
What's that?
We are, rest in peace, died too early before we got to see expand. The SIM tray ejector was the only thing that liquid metal was ever made for to use that Apple bought. They had bought this company that had proprietary tech about making this liquid metal, and it was the SIM tray ejector.
It was these?
Yep.
This was liquid metal?
Try to bend it. Try to bend it.
Okay.
It's bent.
Now, was that easy or hard for you?
I mean, I'm very strong, so.
Ooh.
But
So
I mean, it is very. It's not like a paperclip. I can say that.
Yes,
It's very
and
strong. Yeah.
It was speculated a long time ago that Apple was going to use this technology. Ooh, yeah. You put some
Shame.
pressure on there. Apple was going to use this technology about incorporating the liquid metal into future iPhones, but it never came. I mean, we still got aluminum and stainless steel, but one thing that it did reflect of was those things. They make those in house, so. Now we're not even going to see those, so I don't know what they're going to use.
Won't.
Well,
Oh yeah.
and then next year nobody's going to have it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel about the space for the SIM tray being occupied with a plastic box that does nothing?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's right. It reminds me. It reminds me of the headphone jack in iPhone 7. That the first time around, you could have put a headphone jack in there, and it wasn't going to take anything away or add anything to it. But they did do it. But it wasn't until later iPhones that they better used that space for either stronger haptic engine or stronger or better, more room for battery or a little bit of both. But the iPhone 7, I remember when they did the teardown that they're like, you could totally put a headphone jack in here, and it was just blank space. It was just holding up room for no reason. So it reminds me of that. So how I feel about it now, it's like, kind of sucks because it means nothing. But at the same time, you have to start somewhere, and I accept that. And I guess I don't feel as invested because I have a SIM tray for the 13 Pro, so I'm like, all right, whatever. This is fine.
I do think it's nice to finally depart from that ancient tradition of switching from one phone to another. And I remember many times. Well, yes, because
Predates smartphones.
Well, I just think of when I took my flip phone in to, not exchange it, but to transfer the memory to my new phone, which was a Droid 4 Razor or whatever. The one that had the sliding screen that had a keyboard underneath. And plugging again, like, I don't think even half the data made it to the Droid. And that was like a hard wire. So to go from like, it might transfer data to where now, as you described, Drew, it's just iPhone, we're good.
Talk to each other.
Talk. Yeah. We're good. So stuff like that, I think, is a lot better, and it reduces the barrier to upgrading to a new phone and the reluctance to. And I guess that just means more money for Apple. But also makes it easy on the consumer and a little bit less of a headache of thinking about, if I break my phone, there's the whole headache of like replacing it, porting the data over and all that. So definitely more of that. A lot more ease of use is welcomed, especially when transferring data. And then maybe improving also on that front for maybe the iPhone 15, improving the data speeds or not data speeds, but the processing speeds for the next A16 or A17 chip or whatever for cinematic porting to computers, because there's no use in keeping it on the phone and be like, oh yes, look, it's cinematic. How do you share it?
Just watch it on the phone.
Yeah, just watch it on the phone, right? So
sure, people are saying I should have just edited the whole video on the iPhone. That would have been fun. But to be frank, even for it to be edited in iMovie, it needed to process the whole thing. So
iMovie,
it's not
ew.
Just download this app, Drew. It's better than Final Cut.
20-minute review on LumaFusion on a 6-inch display. That'd be fun. But there's been a lot of talk recently that I've seen in the comments that I felt like Randy should weigh in on, because people have been saying eSIM means less privacy because there's not a way to just pop out a physical SIM anymore. Now it's like hardwired in there. Do you think there's a compromise in security measures by switching to eSIM, or Apple says there's a gain?
Security measure in regards to control?
Sure. Is there another way?
It depends. I'm not being coy. It depends what your question is.
So, like, if people are worried about the government tracking them, for example, and
no, seriously, what's your question?
See, it may be rhetorical because I'm kind of asking the question, but I know the answer. But I just wanted to, for others listening that may not know the answer.
So, okay, if the reason why, again, I'm not being coy, I think the only thing I've heard presented was that now it's easier for them to just lock your phone now that there's no chip involved. I've heard that statement within the last week, and I go, like, dude, they don't need an eSIM to lock your, like, if they're gonna lock you, they can lock you. There is no great one more thing that you turn over to the carriers or Apple or I don't know, I almost said Trump or Apple or all these things, like no, that's not how that works.
So you're not like getting a bunch of privacy by deciding to occasionally pop out your SIM tray if you're in a zone where you want to, I don't know, talk bad about the government or I don't know.
So you just turn off your phone at that point?
Use case, but
if you want to talk bad, if you want to talk, hypothetically speaking, if you want to talk bad about something, or if you want to say something that could put you on a watch list, the only thing that would be remotely secure is if you have no electronics on you and you go very, very, very far away. Even if you go out and, like, Apple promotes in the middle of nowhere, but you have your SOS and you could talk to as long as you have a device that has a mic, it does not matter. That has a mic goal, to be more specific.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. I am now Siri, or I'm the new
and
Siri.
I'm telling you, and I'm not even saying iPhone. I'm saying these AirPods. I'm saying this Apple Watch. Anything. Yeah. You. The only privacy you have is by having none of it, and that's people. That's almost like, oh, well, of course you would. That's literally true. That is the only way. You don't want to be heard. If you're that paranoid about your privacy, about your security, if you're that paranoid, have none of it on you. That's the only way.
Live in the woods and grow your own food. And
I mean, it's I'm not. Let me. Every time we have these conversations, or if this is the first time you're listening to talk about, I have a background in cybersecurity. I am secure. Like I have Security Plus certified, and I have all these credentials and stuff. And I've spent many years in this sector, and I worked for the government directly. But with that, I'm not saying anything that's breaking an NDA. I am just stating stuff as a U.S. citizen, and I am allowed to make my own observations that doesn't go against anything that I've ever worked on. The
FBI is gonna break through his door.
Boom! It doesn't. It's even scarier because I'm in Virginia and I'm so close to the FBI headquarters.
There's so much government there.
Like, bye guys. No. So where I'm getting at is that every time this
eSIM is totally safe.
I'm not saying I'm not like my preface that me saying all this is that I'm not saying to the audience that I condone this or I'm okay with it. I'm not even saying I participate in it. I'm not saying no, all I'm saying, the only thing I'm saying is that surveillance, if you're on the bigger scale of security and worrying about Big Brother and surveillance, you're in the wrong era. Like you are in the wrong.
How dare you get born in this time?
You chose.
Should have been born much earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, people who are listening to this are tech fanatics. Like all the smart tech has a source. It all goes to something. So, I am an advocate for security and privacy and giving end users the option to control things, i.e. Targeted ads and stuff like that. I do believe in all that stuff, and I also believe in in actual privacy. I believe that there shouldn't be monitoring or surveillance to citizens, to civilians. I do believe that, but it does not matter what I believe, and that's just not the case. And I can only say that out loud because there's been time and time again proof. I mean, maybe the most infamous or famous, depending on how you look at him, Edward Snowden. Just look at what he talks about. Read his book. You want to know, just read Edward Snowden's book, Permanent Record, and that will tell you 80-90% of any of your curiosities. And I could tell you he's not lying. But in regards to eSIM and talking about tracking or listening, one last thing. I mean, listen. That doesn't stop them now. And if you take out your eSIM, or if you take out your SIM card now, the only thing that prevents you is you having connection to your dedicated cell tower. That's it. To your cell tower for your carrier. That's what the SIM is doing right there. It's associated to your account, but that does not mean you have security. That doesn't mean you have privacy. And even say that was the case. You need to be worried about the apps on your phone before you worry about the SIM. That is the most obvious thing.
Sure.
Oh my God! Now my carrier can decide when or how to shut me down or listen. No, dude, they just got to go to Meta again and be like, pull the transcripts or just turn on your mic without you listening. I mean, there's so many other ways. Worry about your apps before you worry about your SIM. That's my advice. So no, I don't have anything more to add on to the whole eSIM or SIM thing. It's one less thing that you control. True that, like, if some people remember in Man of Steel when they handcuff Superman, why do you do that when you know you could break through? It's like it makes them feel more secure. It's the same thing. If it makes you feel good that you have like control over it, like I'm gonna take the chip and I'm gonna, like in Terminator 2, throw it in the lava, and thumbs up as you go into the more power to you, man. But it doesn't matter. It does not matter.
Yeah, I think it's definitely. I skimmed an article while you're talking about it as well, Randy, just to get some context on how dangerous eSIMs could be. And it seems like physical SIMs are actually a little bit more dangerous because you can have scammers, send regular SIMs. Or have a person buy a SIM card from an electronics store nearby or a gas station or wherever. Why do I say electronic? A regular physical SIM, and then bring it home and put it into their device, and then the hacker or scammer now has a way to get into the phone because it's a different SIM card that's not proprietary with Verizon or something else.
Do you guys not hear, or on that same notion, Mike? There was a scam years ago that carriers had to get smart on, where somebody would call. I could take say if I was a bad actor, okay, as in like
You are
action.
a bad actor.
What are you doing here? Yeah. No, like I'm doing something nefarious, and in this example, let's say I wanted to take one of your guys' phone numbers, and take all your contacts and port your thing over to and I have control. There was a scam that was going on quite a few years ago now, that somebody would call the carrier, hey, listen, I locked myself, and they would actually manipulate the call center into sending this person a reset, so to say, on I just got this new phone, I'm stressing out and I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not tech savvy, and they just play, like this helpless blah blah blah, help me. And they were able to I could take on Drew's persona on the phone by having enough information, and all you need is really, you don't even need a phone number, but for this case, all you need is a phone number, and that would be enough that at the time you could present enough information to the teller on the call, and they would send you this one-time PIN to reset this, and all of a sudden now you're
was
locked out.
Was that called SIM swap?
Yes.
Is that what it was? Yeah. I think I remember that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So, in that sense, if we're just talking about scams, then more moving pieces is more ways to be exploited, and moving pieces in this case is the SIM card. So
sure.
as long as there's more moving pieces, there's more ways to exploit. So in that sense, eSIM should help, but they got smart.
Anyone could just pick up the phone and take it out if they felt like, if anyone physically. They access your phone. They can just, even if they don't have the passcode to the phone, they can just take it and do whatever they want with the physical SIM.
Is your concern more about your account with your carrier, or is it with because with the iPhone you can report the phone lost and then you can erase all the, like obviously the everyone else is caught up since the days of people spoofing phone numbers and swapping SIMs and stuff like that. So we've it's a cat and mouse game. It's always going to be a cat and mouse game, and I guarantee there will be something innovative that happens with eSIMs and scammers. So okay, so maybe not as something as scary as Big Brother, but now if we're just talking scammers, something will come from this. That's just the name of the game. There always has been, and there always will be. It's an ever moving target. So that's just the world we live in.
Yeah, I think you put it pretty well earlier, Randy, with just don't use apps that are gonna put your own information at harm. I think a good example is like Jeff Bezos, right? Getting hacked and all that through some social media app. I think it was WhatsApp or something like that. And also, if you don't want the government listening on you, if you think that they're listening to you through your microphone, put it in a bin and then go somewhere else away from the technology that has microphones. So I think those two ways, if you're concerned about your privacy, are good ways to protect it. Is don't use apps that could potentially exploit it, and if you want to talk privately, leave the electronics behind.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have it figured out.
We solved the world hunger.
Yeah. I still have got the physical SIM tray on my phone, but there's nothing in it, which feels kind of funny. It's just
Is it lighter?
sitting there. It does fit. Yeah. It's like some.
How many more electrons do you have in it?
Maybe that's why the 14 Pro Max is slightly heavier than the 13 Pro Max, but it's very slight. So maybe that's because of the black plastic they put in replacement of the SIM tray, or just beefed up steel in the chassis since it doesn't have to have a hole for the tray. But it's relieving. It's honestly, it feels nice to be back on my. This feels like my phone. The 14 never felt like my phone the whole time using it. It always was.
It never was.
You're not mine. Like this isn't me.
That's not.
It's cool. And I appreciate the dynamic island, but just like the story I shared with Randy last week, I was unable to tell that I was using it or not. And I was like, yeah, that's a good message. But I'm excited to test out. I'll be getting my Ultra and AirPods today, so.
Okay, I want to talk now.
After that.
I want to talk about
Okay.
iPhone, and I want to talk about these other things now.
Go.
He's ready.
Go.
So, I am
Here comes the
proud to present that I have got. I psyched you out again. It's the Magic Mouse again.
I got one of those too.
I psyched you out again. Okay. I
We'll
have
a different
not.
one.
I like yours so much more. iMac Pro did that right. They did that right.
Still here.
So, I can pick up an iPhone 14 Pro purple right now at a Best Buy, and I'm choosing not to. I'm not even going to do it. I'm not.
Why is that?
To prove a point. to
Sounds familiar.
To prove a point to all of you, to our listeners, to the fans, the curious minds, and even to myself, because obviously people care so much about my feedback on these things. I need to. I don't even want to be a hypocrite even a little bit by a technicality and finding a loophole in this, and
True.
and I don't. I don't want but I partly why I'm not doing this is because Drew got to do it for me, and I don't need to this day. I have not even seen the phone in person, and I don't need to. I already know what I know, and I don't want to be. I don't want to be a part of the problem, and I don't want to add to the noise of the bigger issue. And the bigger issue here that Drew has addressed in his videos, what we've all talked out loud. I don't have like some new revelation. What's new is just how I'm actually going to go about all of it, because it's kind of cathartic for me to be like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, this is fine. And I actually want to be a voice in that, where I can say that it's okay to just no. And the 14 Pro is so similar to the 13 Pro. So much so that Apple removed it from the website, like they did the 12 Pro for the 13 Pro, like they did for the 11 Pro for the 12 Pro. They do it for all the Pros because they know each year it's minor. And you could say that about what's.
I'll be back.
Okay. Oh, it's time.
Ooh, here we go.
Ooh, it's time, ladies and gentlemen.
Live on air.
He's not going to unbox it here.
No,
He has
not.
more money to be made doing it with his live streams and super chats.
Well, Randy, I bought you one, but because you don't want it, I guess I'll just have to give it away. This is definitely not the box that came with mine.
Right. No,
You
no,
obviously
I can tell.
cannot tell the
It looks
the
heavier.
silver outline. Oh yeah, it's definitely a Pro Max. It's definitely not a Pro.
that looks heavier. This if there was a year to skip, it's this year for me, not for you, Mike. Like
I needed it.
No, for I wholeheartedly, like if the latest phone you have was an 11 or older, then hell yes, get the 14, any 14, and I would say the 14 Pro. But no, I think this year when I saw the announcements happen, the first thing I kind of thought was like, this is Mike's year for an upgrade. This is for anybody who's in Mike's situation, where they do hold on to their phone every couple years, more than just one. And they're like, okay, software is starting to age it a little bit. Batteries definitely aged, and everything that happens just with time and wear and tear. This is an appropriate upgrade. And if you liked the 11 Pro for what it offered with the three camera array, being the first one that did it, then it's a proper evolution into you moving into that next phone. And for you, I think this was the cleanest transition from one to the other, because you get the promotion, you get the updated ultra wide. You get the MagSafe now. You get everything. You get Drew coming back showing you all the new toys that he just got.
This is the earliest delivery I've ever had at this house. It's never this early.
So it sounds like Drew got some carpets delivered. Do you want to show us some carpet? Or
Just what I wanted.
Is it Meals on Wheels? Did you get some nice pre-made meals for lunch or something like that?
I did.
Meals on Wheels.
But I could hear you guys the whole time, even though you couldn't hear me.
Yeah,
It was complicated hearing Randy talk as I was talking to the delivery guy at the same time.
You talking all that schmack. And I was like, I never even really liked him anyway, Mike. But just between you and me, he's not going to listen to this.
I think we could do this without him. Even though that was gone last week, we could do this without him. No issue there.
I would love that.
An upgrade for you, Mike, was appropriate, but for most people who moved to the squared off, iPhones, this does not feel like if there was ever a year to just kind of skip it, this would be the year. So how noble am I really being by like making an easy, like, no, this is not the year. And I, it's not a difficult, it's better to say don't switch on a super cycle or whatever they used to call those things with a bigger transition. If they move to USB-C and they have the periscope and they're able to all these, don't do it, guys. Like that's courage. This is not courage. This is a cop out. But it's the effort of going through the whole routine of it all. Pre-order, getting up early, having a pre-order, skipping that for the first time in years felt good. Not having to go through the whole
Even
process.
though for you it's at 8 a.m. instead of 5 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was in San Diego when the pre-orders happened, so it would have been 5
That's
a.m.
fair.
Yeah.
It would have been 5. Yeah, you're right.
And so I'm like, I didn't want to do that. Having to do that. Having to go through the whole sign into the iCloud, have to re-download all these things and sit there and have these weird hiccups and have to re-download everything from iMessage again and get all up and running. Then I have to get this new hurdle of hard SIM to eSIM and going back and forth and all that would have been an annoyance for me. And knowing I wasn't going to keep it, I wouldn't even put my SIM in it. So what am I really looking at? A camera bump upgrade that even Drew said in his review. I know where my stuff's getting posted. This is not going in a museum where I need every high fidelity thing. For Nick, and I said this for Nick last week, and I still stand by. Like Mike, for Nick with the cameras, he needs everything he can get because he does do the raw photos and he tries to preserve as much information on each photo that he has, and the integrity of each photo has to be preserved in a way that he can archive it later. And I've seen him print his stuff and blown it up, and it's been hung. Like, he needs as much detail as possible. Get it, boo boo. Mm-hmm. More power to you. I get it.
And it should be mentioned, Randy already bought a new iPhone this year.
I technically did. Yeah,
he bought the new iPhone before any of us. It just wasn't the 14.
I did buy an iPhone in 2022. And I want an iPhone 13 mini now, but if I'm being honest, now it's like, as much as I want it, the thesis of it is still the same for me, that I don't, the whole process of contributing to the noise that it's, what's the point of me buying another phone right now if I know I'm keeping this one right here? To make this a camera now, okay, maybe, but it's more than just, it is a phone. It is a communication device. It is an iPod. Are you getting it? It's a breakthrough communication device. It's all those things anyway, and I don't use my iPad like that really anymore. The phone is and I just check this out. Okay, so I bought the phone earlier this year, so it's not a 12-month-old phone. It's over 6 months. But I checked the battery health of this phone, and I checked the battery health on my watch. Both are still at 100% battery health.
Oh, that's cool. Wow, neither of mine are at 100.
Yeah. So now I'm at a point where it's like, my stuff's not even dated yet. It's not even used. It's just there. Aesthetically, it's got a little, scratching here and there, but that's with anything that in time So that's not a deal breaker. It's the battery's fine. The OS is fine. Everything about the phone is flawless. It's perfect. So why even go through the whole process of it? And as I've told you guys in previous episodes on the podcast, that like I hate it. Like me sobering up to this revelation was I hated going through the process of going through Swappa and selling every old iPhone that I had and older Apple Watches and then older iPads. I'm like, oh my God, it was so time consuming and just time I can't get back. It was just frustrating.
Which is why a lot of people do trade-in, but you probably don't like trade-in because you know the value is a lot worse that way.
I trade in the iMac because, as you know, I was forced to. I was against time about leaving San Diego, and I did not have time to go through selling the iMac through Swappa, which I would have done, or Facebook Marketplace, or wherever, OfferUps, something. I would have gone through anything but a trade-in, but time was against me, and I had to. There was a bigger picture happening at that moment, so I had to take the $400 BS offer. But
that was so
trade-in
bad.
is terrible. I don't even like any trade-in. I wouldn't want to trade in. Look. I believe I'm a tech guy through and through, and I'm an Apple sheep above even all of that. But I also believe in being responsible about what you do with your money. And I'm not blind to who our target audience is. I know we have a younger audience, and I know a lot of these younger listeners. For most part, I know there's exceptions, but for the most part, our younger audience hasn't done the rest of the life experience yet of like owning a house or complete school. And most of them might even be living at home. And if that's you, I don't diss that. You're taking advantage of a good opportunity that you have presented to you now. More power to you for that. But at some point in your life, most likely you're going to be at a point where you have to make difficult decisions with your finances, with your life. And the Apple sheep in me struggled to make the responsible decisions sometimes, things I didn't have to do, and stuff that I envy my wife. Drew, I know you envy your wife. Like, we all have envy of people in our circles that, like, man, I wish I had a healthy relationship with my tech like that. But I would find excuses. I would justify. I would rationalize everything, and I can make a case for anything on any part of it. And I need to try to break that cycle. If not for, at least for myself, let me at least try to be an example to say that it's fine. Even someone who, you could still be an Apple sheep and a tech fanatic and still admire the space and not have the product. Different podcast, but Drew is a prime example of being an EV fanatic for years now without ever having one. And that did not discredit you. I know you had some barriers where people wouldn't take you seriously, like you don't deserve to talk about, but that's the except. Those are just trolls being jerks about something to try to undermine your thought on something. But that doesn't take away the excitement you have about EVs and about the space without ever having one. Why should iPhones or anything in the Apple world be any different than that? I'm allowed to be excited about the AirPods Max without having it. Being an audiophile without having it, I'm allowed to. Which is why, to finish I told you it was going to be a while. I needed to say all this, and I wanted to go last. I'm not going to get the AirPods Pro. I'm not going to get the new AirPods Pro.
Okay.
Interesting.
For the exact same. For the exact.
How'd you do that?
Same. That was beautiful.
I was going to give them to you, but if you don't want them, then.
Yeah. Mike made that joke already. Mike already made that joke. Yeah.
And I think I inspired you to not get the 14. But seems like a lot of people in the comments sided with me on that as well. They said I tried it from my 13 Pro and it felt so insanely similar that I just couldn't. But most people aren't upgrading from the 13 Pro, which I think is important to acknowledge. And
yes,
I do think the 14 Pro, and I felt kind of bad. Like, I felt like my review after finishing it and watching the whole thing through, I was like, I think I was talking too much about myself in that video. I guess it is my experience or my thought process or whatever, but I still feel like I wasn't highlighting enough of the good things about it, and the fact that I do think it's a great device. It's the best the iPhone has ever been. I can say that confidently. The 14 Pro Max is the best iPhone of all time. And for a lot of people that are looking to upgrade and want something that's good with the best of the best hardware available, because in my opinion, the reason you want to do that is because you plan on owning it for a long time. You want it to age well. You want good battery life so that when it deteriorates, it can still get you through the day, or you want a bright screen so that it can hold up in the elements as the sun bakes down over it for months and months and months. So it's not that I think no one should get the 14 Pro. It's just I feel like the differences are minor if you've just upgraded, but major if you haven't. So there's absolutely a very large demographic of people I would recommend it to and say, yeah, that's the best out there. I would argue it's the best phone available.
If I may,
period.
I had a conversation and I said I would give credit on this podcast to them. So, if you guys are listening to it, people in my Discord on the European side all came to the same conclusion about the iPhone 14 as a whole. And I wanted to survey them just to hear a different point of view. And none of them are getting the iPhone 14 strictly because of the value of what they would spend the money for. They don't see it this time. Not that they wouldn't do it next time, but for this particular one, someone who has a 13 or a 12, and I think all of them would have one. I think one of them might have an 11. The point is that they said that now they're paying so much more, and I didn't even know what the number was until they told me. And
because the price hikes in Europe,
1,300 for the base model, low end
exactly
base
the same, and it's a minor upgrade. Yeah.
They were like, they want the phone. Like if they could, they would do it. But they said that that pricing, no, they rather. Most of them were telling me then I'm getting AirPods and an Apple Watch because for that same amount of money, now I can actually increase my overall ecosystem when there's nothing wrong with the hub of it, which would be in the iPhone. In that scenario, sure. There's nothing wrong with it, and they felt this was the smartest move. And so this is for what it is, being the best iPhone, but they're now, I guess more than ever, people are thinking about the price to the dollar as a whole. Even Americans, Ryan, we know Ryan. Ryan said he's going to get the 14 Pro only because there's a carrier deal, and that saves him a lot of costs on that end. And that's the only reason why he would do it. Otherwise, same things. I don't know if I would want to spend that type of money.
Scenario too. That's coming up a lot. I see
something I never thought about, because
this carrier
we pay our phones outright
for free. Yeah,
but
I don't necessarily recommend that either, though, because I think that maybe they're in a situation where they're not paying for the cell phone service. That's a different discussion. But they get they're not losing money on you. I promise. The whole business pitch of those carriers is to rope you in with the hardware so that you can justify the higher monthly cost. That's their whole game plan, is to give you good deals on the hardware. So I get the latest hardware, but they're still very profitable businesses because of how much more their cell phone service costs. So I don't condone maybe it's worth the upgrade if you're on Verizon or AT&T. I'm like, no, just get off. Don't pay for that. I don't think having the latest hardware is how they justify you paying so much for your phone bill, whereas I'm paying, it could be a fourth, it could be a fifth of what another big carrier is charging, which is why I encourage people to go the MVNO route or go to the certified refurbished route, because I do think that's where the savings are. It's not go with the big three and hope that they offer you a good trade-in on your broken old phone. I think that it seems tempting in a closed box scenario, but the amount of money they make in the long run on the monthly charges is insane. So
my brother, and I did not know this, went with T-Mobile this time around because he upgraded from a 12, just regular 12, to 14 Pro. And I was like, you buying the phone outright? And he said, not this time. I'm actually going to do an installment plan through T-Mobile. I was like, why? He's like, because I doing the math, and I would save money, and there's the trade-in. And I was like, are you paying are you doing a loan on the phone, or is this their version? Because it's wordsmith. You're being a wordsmith here. You're moving words around and saying the same thing, that this is the new version of those 2-year contracts, but instead of with the carrier particularly, it's for the phone, or you have to pay 80% of the phone outright, then to turn around and trade it in, or you keep paying towards it, and then you end up eventually just paying it off. And so I told us that you look into how much you're actually paying for it. One, is there interest or is there no interest? And because I didn't know any different, I was told, no, you're not paying any interest. It's an interest-free installment plan for 24 months. And then at the end of it, I was like, this sounds so much like those 2-year contracts, except they're not contracts because we're the non-contract carrier and blah, blah, blah. So it's very clever marketing, but ultimately all saying the same thing, that he has to stay with T-Mobile. It is carrier locked.
That's why they do that. It secures that you won't switch.
Yeah.
That's the
your
main
carrier
reason.
locked to it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's interesting that I like surveying everybody, and people, I'm sure they're going to tell us in the comments too as well. I like seeing it because it shows me from a perspective I don't think about, because out of spite, I purposely buy a phone outright just because I don't want to be beholden to anybody. But that's because I'm spiteful that way. But most people will, like, if I'm going to spend the money anyway, space it out. I'm not paying any additional on it. This is my carrier anyway. I'm in this family plan with everybody else, and here's how I'm going to. So, screw it. Save some money. I'm going to spend the same amount, whether it's all up front or over 24 months, and they rationalize it to themselves that way, and they're okay with it. To each their own. But then they're like, I had the phone for 2 years. All right.
Yeah, it's agreed. I will admit, though, I'm a bit bummed we won't get the audiophile's perspective on the 2nd-gen Pros, because I've heard a lot of very positive things about these. Like people saying the sound quality has improved and the noise cancellation benefits are real. So I'm very excited to test them.
If you notice a difference, you don't need my feedback if you notice a difference.
Right.
If you don't notice a difference, then I might have to take one for the team. Oh,
I'll keep that in mind then.
Yeah. If you put them in, because you got yours right now, and they're now relatively new. There's nothing wrong with the 1st-gen Pros. And that's where my headspace is that, like, there's nothing wrong with my Pros. Will I get the 2nd-gen? I'm sure I will the moment the battery starts crapping out. But as of now, there's nothing wrong with my Pro.
You'll get them on Amazon for $80 less or something.
Right? Yeah, maybe. Why not? I don't need day one anymore. These are not 12-month cycles. Even if they were like iPhones, maybe we'd have a different conversation, but they're not. And I'm okay with that.
This was like 3-year cycle, I think.
Beautiful. Great. Awesome.
But I'm still interested to see how they sound and try the volume controls on the stem and everything. I'm excited, but I respect it because I do think it's a dangerous cycle or habit that we may encourage on the podcast, is if we're always buying the latest and greatest tech. Other people listening think they need to buy the latest and greatest, and that's the only way you can be happy, is if you buy. The truth is, it's all just stuff, and it's important to take a step back and reprioritize. What do I really need? What gets me through the day versus what looks the prettiest? And I think it's admirable that you want to prioritize that, especially when we're in the economic climate we're in right now. It's a good time for people to rethink their financial priorities.
Yeah, I think that's maybe the beauty of people like you and Marquez, Drew, is the fact that we can kind of, like what Randy brought up earlier, is we can live through your experience. We can watch your thoughts be developed over time with how you've dealt with the technology that just came out that year and what improvements there are, what's the detriments of it and all that. So there is a way for viewers, kind of like me, who watch people like you and Marquez and are like, okay, is it worth upgrading? Probably not, but it is nice watching someone have that excitement and that journey with the new tech. And it gives us at least a chance to figure out, is it worth the upgrade or not? Rather
to that
than
note,
jumping into the pool blind.
Mike, without him outright saying it though, where Mike is even to add on to that what you're getting when you are watching a Talos of Tech review or an MKBHD review. Like if I'm watching Unbox Therapy, I expect the Android biasism and the Apple history being there about kind of more of a negative light to it. I know Marquez is Team Pixel first, but he gives flowers where flowers are due for Apple, and I know what to expect when he wants to talk about the nitty-gritty tech on the cameras or the battery. This, and I know when I watch a Talos of Tech review, I know to expect the whole Apple ecosystem feedback of it. So what reviewer you're watching, regardless of who you watch, anybody, knowing the perspective of that person helps shape your understanding about that situation. But like, I didn't need Drew or even you, Mike, or Nick or Marquez, anybody to tell me that I knew Dynamic Island was going to wear off as quickly. Ooh! All right, I'm over it. I didn't need anybody to tell me that. I just, it's so gimmicky that it's like, hey, that sounds cool. All right, I'm done. It's like, but you stick of gum. Oh, it's gone, and you lose the flavor. So
Dynamic Island is like 5-minute gum, you know.
It's 5-minute gum. Oh, and it's just, you already lost it.
And then you spit it back out.
And then you're
within
done
the
with
return
it.
window.
Yeah. So I got to live vicariously, and that's why I asked you the questions. Like, does it have the portrait mode? That's something I would have cared about. That's something I wanted to know. No one else was talking about it. It's like, well, shoot. Hey, Drew, does it do this? Oh, that's a good question. I didn't even know I was using the old phone. I don't need this phone.
Oh, no, it doesn't. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wait
it
a
does.
minute.
That's right.
Yeah.
But what I need to ask you guys, since Mike's just upgraded and is very happy, and I'm happy for you. I'm glad someone on this panel is going to have a 14 Pro, especially when there's
I'll carry
probably
the
going to be there's probably going to be a bunch of iOS 17 changes that only the 14 Pros get, and we're going to have to check in with Mike. What does it do when you try that? You know, like, we're going to have to ask him how it's performing. And Randy has put his foot down. He's not even interested in reviewing for the sake of just testing out the 14 Pro. Is there something in particular you're looking for in an upgrade that you're waiting for, or is it more of the, I'm going to use my 13 Pro until it literally like won't turn on or won't get me through the day anymore? Like, are you going to go the battery replacement route? Like, if the battery health dips below 80, you'll replace the battery, or are you waiting for a Thunderbolt or a Periscope? Like, is there a specific thing in mind you're waiting for?
There is.
How about you, Mike?
I want to see. Well, Mike is the healthiest out of all three of us with his tech addiction here.
As I'm staring at my Mac Studio on my studio display.
What did you have before that? What did you? I'm talking about iPhones here.
The iMac that I bought a year ago. Very healthy. You guys have incited this toxic.
That's my
behavior.
problem. That's why I don't want to even review it. I don't want to encourage that anymore.
Yeah.
I
blame
hate that
y'all for
that
this.
we incited that. You were living a boring Pixel 2 life. Then you met a bunch of
I don't
hood
think
rats.
Mike has ever upgraded annually. Have you?
No. So, actually, this is the first time I've upgraded from iPhone to iPhone ever. Actually,
Oh,
I almost
wow.
have the whole lineup, right? Because I got the 5S here, and then I
You went
upgraded
5S to Pixel
to the S7 Edge,
Oh,
and then to
God.
Pixel, and then
Why did we let you on this show? I keep forgetting.
I know, right? And then iPhone, and then other iPhone, and I guess before
Okay.
all those,
I don't know who
phones.
vetted you, but we need to fire that person. Over at Talos of Industry, somebody dropped the ball hard, and I need names.
Just blame the interns.
Do you think you'll go another? I guess for Mike, I want to hear Randy's answer too. But I guess for Mike, do you think you can go another 3 years with the 14 Pro, or do you think there's something they could come up with that would make you upgrade sooner?
As long as the battery doesn't dip below the same level that my 11 Pro did, to where I'm having to charge it like 2 or 3 times during the day just to get through the day, I think it'll last me at least 3 years like the 11 Pro did. Because I got the 11 Pro in January of 2020, so it wasn't even like launch day. So it was like kind of 2.5 years to 3 years or whatever. But
Uh-huh.
I've got no reason to upgrade. I think the only thing that does sound interesting is the USB-C, but a lot of the accessories I use use Lightning, like MagSafe Duo and the keyboard. The keyboard in front of me right now is plugged in via Lightning because it needs to charge. The Magic Mouse also uses Lightning, and a couple other things also use Lightning. So even if the 12 Pro comes out, or 12 Pro, the 15 Pro comes out next year and has Thunderbolt, I don't really need it because I'm still using Lightning. I think maybe in 3 to 4 years, if like the Magic Mouse and the keyboard and a bunch of other stuff finally switch over to Thunderbolt, that's when it makes sense to switch over to the next iPhone or not next iPhone, but that iPhone that year that has Thunderbolt.
The ecosystem transition.
Yeah, it would have to be something spectacular that I can't even think of right now that can only be done on the 15, where, like, I guess a great example is my watch, right? It's a Series 5. I don't need to upgrade, and I'm already going to get a low power mode, which is going to increase the battery life in the next few months or whatever. I don't need to upgrade to the Ultra, which the Ultra looks great. It's a very interesting upgrade that I was very tempted on getting. I'm jealous. For audio listeners, he is just rubbing it in our face.
You got the green one?
That was the only one you could get at launch. I didn't. I tried to get a different color, and it wouldn't be available till October.
What do you mean? Hold on! Don't you dare disrespect. What do you mean? I tried to get a different one. How dare?
The first one I ordered was like a black Alpine loop or something. But
he's got the green one.
I don't think I'll take the band out.
Randy for an hour. This is why you shouldn't upgrade. Drew shows
that face.
Green loop.
Oh my god, that face he made was.
I never said
so
nothing
beautiful.
about the watch band. That's an accessory.
Yeah, but that only comes with the Ultra. So sounds like you need to set aside a bit of cash for the Ultra. Yeah, I think that's the only thing that I'm more tempted by right now in the ecosystem is the Ultra.
So you would upgrade
iPod.
iPhone for USB-C or Thunderbolt if they
once
switch
everything
the port.
once everything else upgrades, because even if the 15 has USB-C, everything else in my ecosystem, or not everything else, but a lot of things use Lightning. So that just means
you're gonna wait
sharing.
till there's basically like no Lightning accessories on the website, and then start upgrading stuff maybe.
Probably when MagSafe and Magic Mouse, I think those two things, once those switch to USB-C, that's when it's like, okay, it's time to switch over because I charge those more often.
That's an interesting roadblock you give yourself.
I like
Mike.
that.
That's
No, I like
very weird one.
That's wise because we all have a bunch of Lightning cables. That's there's several on my desk right now. I'm looking at them, and I'm just like, yeah. Even if the iPhone switched to Type C, we'd still have all these cables.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Well, I use them for MagSafe.
Okay. Well, then okay. So if not USB-C, then I accept that as an answer. But then what would be like hell or high water? All right, I got to upgrade to this phone.
That's a tough
Well,
question.
he said he couldn't think of one. So
Yeah, I couldn't think of it at the moment, but
I can give you time. I'll answer mine and give you time to think.
yeah, give me some more time.
Okay. So for me, I can't be as disciplined as Drew. I don't even think Drew. I knew Drew. I had a very strong. Okay, not I knew, but I had a very strong feeling that Drew would not upgrade this year, just because.
Because I said I wouldn't.
Because you said you wouldn't, and if rumors and leaks to be true, it wasn't anything that was noteworthy about any of that stuff. So it was okay to pass, but I don't think you're gonna go 5 years like you said. I don't believe that.
Did I say 5?
You did. Oh yeah,
You said
did.
3 to 5, I think.
You said 3
when
to 5
I watched
years.
The old 13 Pro Max review, I said 3 to 4.
No, you said 5.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Sure.
So I'm purposely going to the extreme here and saying I don't think you will ever make it to 5, and I don't think you'll make it to 3. You might make it to 3, but that's where I'm like, I don't know.
I've made it to 1.
You've made
so
it to
you're saying
1.
You think I'll get next year's to keep? Is your prediction?
Maybe. So okay. now let me tell you why I don't have a timestamp on mine. I'm waiting for something.
Okay.
You scratched your itch with ProMotion and OLED, and now you know that
was a
Apple
big one.
sheep The Apple sheep in you is content. I think
Not the
USB-C,
OLED, but the promotion, yeah.
yeah, but OLED. I mean, who don't want no OLED? But so
I'd rather
USB
have promotion than OLED. For the
of course,
record, but
yeah, I
don't
know.
want OLED.
USB-C will make you upgrade for sure. If the port, but not just, it has to be Thunderbolt. You have to be able to move these ridiculously high, especially if there was a way. If Apple fixes the cinematic mode codec thing and can move it over a wired connection, that will make you do it. I mean, that would make anybody do it. Even if you're going to use continuity camera for your Mac, that would make, and having a wired connection, who wouldn't want to do that? That just feels like a smart.
Any of our wives, really.
No. We're talking Apple sheep here. You and me, buddy.
Yeah,
We're just
any
talking Apple
Apple
sheep here. Okay.
Okay. So you think
in
Type-C would do it.
in
Okay.
the ecosystem of it all, USB-C I think would make you do it. But I'm not here to speculate what would make you upgrade. I'm here to just make the
Yeah,
point
I asked
that
you.
Yeah, I know. I don't think you will go 3
He's
years.
avoiding the
You
question.
might go
Your Honor, avoiding the question.
3 to 5 years. No. So here's what I'm waiting for, and however long it takes. Here, this is my line in the sand. This is what I'm doing. When it's not all of these, it's one of these. It's all camera related, but it's one of these things. We get a substantial, genuine improvement in ultra wide, like a real improvement.
Oh, like noticeable. Yeah.
Yes. That would make me probably do that almost instantly. If I can use ultra wide in a way that actually doesn't give me that fuzzy, grainy, and the moment
Like
you
if they
step
brought
away,
the 48 megapixel sensor to the ultra wide, so it retained that sharpness.
if I can close my window right now, close the blind, and if I turn off my light right here, and I can still take a decent photo with the Apple software doing its thing for the ultra wide without it looking fuzzy, noisy, grain, and doing all that stuff. So if the other lens got the same attention as the main lens,
Yeah.
absolutely yes. That would be a deal breaker for me. I'm going right into it. I don't care.
Or deal
what
maker.
I've said. That'll be a deal maker for me. All right, let's do this. That's a proper ultra wide upgrade right there. As you've alluded with your 2x observation and then 3x, that there's a bit of a redundancy there.
It feels like a weird middle step to have a 2x and a 3x.
Right.
Especially switching between the two, it's so like
Right.
great.
So
it's a little closer now.
I
It
agree.
feels like
ultra wide. Go ahead.
That's what I found from my circumstances, my experience.
Yeah.
is it's very much just okay because I'm currently growing a garden, so it's always like, where's the best shot with like this cucumber that's a crazy massive size, or the pumpkins that are growing and all that, and it's always just like, does it look great at 3x or 2x? And it's like, it's still the same, or I could just take a step forward, I guess. Either or.
I think 2x and 3x is about the equivalent of one arm length. It's
yeah. I mean, I'm not complaining that like we have this feature. Like, it's a great feature. I love it. Or I should say,
I mean,
I have
for
the
some,
feature, but
yes, you do.
I'm happy that I've got it.
I mean, I have 3x too. I almost forgot. This technically does that. It just doesn't do the middle. But I mean, I could just go to 3x and then hold the phone back here, and I'm basically there.
You have to step backward. Wow, plebeian.
Please, you have to step backward. Yeah, it feels like there should be a bigger jump if you're going to have a dedicated lens for telephoto. It feels like if the main sensor lets us preserve all that quality at 2x, then we should probably be able to jump to 5x or 10x or something after that. And I feel like Apple knows we're going there. It's just not ready yet. But
2x, if we can now emulate what used to be a 2 camera system with iPhone 7 through iPhone 11,
yeah,
if you can emulate that with one sensor, drop the second camera then, because the main sensor is the more powerful. That's the best sensor anyway. Telephoto has always suffered for it. So has ultra wide. The main sensor is the bread and butter of it all. So making the second lens obsolete to me, because 2x, I find 2x more important than 3x, and I've been in situations where like it's punching in too much. I need to pull back, and it just I'm fighting with the camera with the 13 Pro, and I'm like, this is frustrating. So the other thing that would make me upgrade is that we actually correct the telephoto lens. If that means turning it into a periscope lens or whatever we want to call it, then that's where we're at. That's what I want to do. And the other thing that would make me upgrade is we actually have we get the same type of back end camera treatment to the front facing camera. If the FaceTime camera gives you the same, if I could do this with the phone now on the front,
It does have autofocus.
yeah, but that like I've been watching the reviews, and that is very good. It doesn't have the same. Oh wait, what say you?
No, it's pretty. It does that effect you're talking about. I'll send you a video.
Please, yeah, I want to see. I want to see this autofocus thing. To me, needs to have. I want the front-facing camera to be the best, like vlog camera you could have equivalent. You know, where you could choose. And I thought cinematic mode fixed this, where you could choose if you want to bokeh out the background or if you want everything in focus. I like that type of control to it, but actually doing it with hardware and not just software is something that is extremely appealing to me. Making the front-facing camera just as competitive as the main sensor on the back of the phone is something that I would upgrade immediately. Okay. Lastly, the other thing I would pull the trigger on almost like instantaneously for it is if there was some type of proprietary blah blah that happens with iPhone, like a next gen iPhone that gives you the same. I don't know what this is because Apple gets creative with it, but you get the same level of convenience as continuity camera. If I had some type of another level of convenience that comes with the new iPhone, I'm like, that helps my workflow, then I would upgrade immediately. Whether that's LiDARing your ear to get a proper fit for headphones, whether that's continuity camera.
LiDARing.
Yeah, like
the ear.
If there was something
sentence I didn't expect to hear today.
It's LiDAR for your ears. And you know what's funny? That was a title we used that I said, and it became a thing. So
they saw that episode, I think.
I'm just saying. I said it. It became a thing. You're welcome. So I'm like, if Apple did something with the greatest, latest, whatever iPhone that makes a proprietary convenience to the Apple ecosystem in a way that's actually convenient using Mac or using something, the same way of continuity camera is for me, I would do it because I'm never going to get off of Ventura now because ever since I've ran the beta, I've been exclusively doing this, working, thriving, and I've never been happier. So same thing would have to be applicable. Those are my contingencies about a guaranteed upgrade, no matter what.
Okay. Well, I'll admit from the surprises we got and the decent little bells and whistles that the 14 Pro came with, like I didn't expect Dynamic Island. That was way cooler than I thought it was going to be. I didn't expect the 2000 nits brightness outdoors. That was honestly really helpful, very useful. During my testing process, that I still felt like I shouldn't decide whether I'm not going to buy something before it's come out. That felt like a jump the gun too soon. And even though ultimately the 14 Pro didn't convince me and I didn't go back on what I said because I genuinely didn't find it that different, I don't think I'll do this process again for next year. I don't think I'll say I'm not upgrading to the 15 Pro like now. You know, I'm not saying I'm guaranteed to upgrade to it, but I think learning this experience and making these kinds of calls of no matter, I'm reading the leaks, I'm reading the rumors, and nothing sounds interesting. I don't want to do that anymore because I want to give Apple the chance to make their case, and I don't think I should write them off before they've even made a pitch to whether or not the product is worth it. So moving forward, I'm not saying I'm not getting the 15 Pro, nor am I saying I am.
I'm
I'm
not
just saying,
not getting it.
I need to see it. I need to try it before I come up to a conclusion.
Sure.
So I was right in my instincts that the 14 Pro would not be that different ultimately after using it, but I will admit that hype in that lead up process to the delivery, I was on the fence a bit. I was like, oh shoot, what did I commit to? Like maybe this is going to be way better than I think it is, and maybe I'm going to have to do that video saying I regret and I ended up keeping the 14, or I go against my
Get a nice
word.
clickbait.
The thumbnail.
Yeah. I actually really love it. That I could have done all the things people thought I was going to do, but ultimately I don't have the camera quality of other channels. I don't have the technical breakdowns of other channels. I don't have the insane battery tests or speed tests that other channels have. Ultimately, all I have is my honesty. That's all I can really fall back on, is just I say what I think. I'm not pitching something to the channel because it's convenient for me. It's just I genuinely was making those videos about the 14 Pro because of how I felt at the time. Those were my genuine opinion, was I don't want to upgrade and I don't think I need to. And once I got the phone, used it, and ran into those circumstances like I was with Randy where I couldn't even tell I was using it, I was like, okay, that's a real example. That's not something I'm faking. I'm not making this up to stay true to my word. It is genuinely how I feel about the phone. But the whole process leading up to it of like, maybe since the tech channel is, this is basically my career and I'm very grateful for the people watching. And there were even some comments I got recently on yesterday's video that was just talking about like, well, Drew, if you're talking about leaks and rumors of the latest iPhone all the time, and that's what your channel's about, you should buy and review the latest and greatest at all times, because you're not an everyday consumer. You're not one of us. You're supposed to be trying out the latest and telling us how if iOS 17 comes out and changes a bunch of things on the 14 Pro, you don't get to review those changes. And I thought there was some validity to that, and part of my brain thinks like, well, maybe just out of responsibility of being a tech channel, I should be using the latest and greatest. But because of those arguments, it's changed my mind on not committing to not buying something before Apple launches it. So I'm not gonna do this again. I'm not saying no 15 Pro. I'm gonna go 5 years without the 13 Pro. I'll wait and see. I'll see if it's worth it. I'll see if the changes are interesting to me, and if they are,
did you have
I'll
too much pressure about feeling like your hand was forced about staying on the 13 Pro? Was there that? Did you have pressure about that? Like, I said it, and I have to eat my words. I made my bed after late. Was that have that pressure on you a lot?
A little bit before I got the 14 Pro, because I think the hype, kind of the Christmas morning feeling, I would call it, was very real for me. I was very, very excited for the phone, and the upgrades that I didn't expect to see, and especially you naturally get hyped in this position. It's hard to compare to, because not too many people listening to this podcast are making as many tech videos or doing as many live streams as I am. So when all year you're talking about a product, and then for like hours you're streaming before the launch, and then you're reacting to the launch, and then you're getting up early to pre-order. Like, when you go through those motions, there's just natural hype that forms, even if it's not genuine. There's just a natural hype surrounding it, because that's what I get to do with my friends. We all get together and we talk about what's coming and what was launched, and so that whole community side of it really got me hyped for the new phone. But reality set in once I got it, and I unboxed it, and it was cool and fun. I was like, whoa, here it is. But then, edit the video, upload it, finally get home, have some time to actually start using it and set it up. And I realized, oh, I use my phone mostly for Twitter, Discord, email, texting. And whether or not there's a little island at the top going back and forth, or a notch, static peninsula, doesn't really impact my daily workflow at all. And
Well, you did
the
say,
cameras-
to your own credit, though, you said you know you would upgrade regardless if Apple introduced the way that quote unquote fundamentally changed the way that you use your iPhone. That's what you said then. I remember you saying that, and because you were, getting at me and Nick because I said, Drew, I can't promise nothing no more because I said I was going to hold the mini, and now I want this because it's cinematic mode. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm a liar. I'm a hypocrite, and I'm just going to upgrade. And I actually believed that last year. So now this year, I was like, I found peace with whatever I was looking for. But you said then during that same time a year ago, if Apple introduced a way that fundamentally changed the way I interact with my iPhone, that is something that I would consider upgrading regardless.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember saying that, but I believe you. That sounds like something I would say. What I could think of was Apple Dex or something, where it like docks into a.
I know you weren't talking about split screen.
No, that would not do it for me. So yeah, it's not split screen. I don't even think it would be a foldable if they did that. I'm trying to think because Mark Gurman's talking about there being an iPhone Ultra, but he's not really saying what the Ultra would do or how that would be different. But I'm just
bigger battery.
Titanium
bigger battery.
Right. It has a crown guard on the side.
Instead of
as much as I realized in day-to-day usage that the 14 Pro made so little difference on my life that even if I sold the 13 Pro Max and it was only a $200 upgrade, I don't think that the island and the slightly thinner bezels and the brighter I don't value that $200. That's all I'm saying. But I don't ever again want to make up my mind about a product before it's come out. I think that's what I've changed about this whole experience. So I don't plan on making I'm not upgrading to the 15 Pro video or, do
you know why you made that promise, though? Do you remember? I want to give some leeway here. Do you remember why we did all that?
Not really.
It's been that long. See, this is why I make these notes. Because 2 years ago, you, me, and Nick said, let's do the minis, money to our mouth. Let's vote with our dollar. The minis is a technological breakthrough that you're able to do so much with so little. Let's just.
And we all said it was a stopgap, right? I thought.
And it was. We.
Well, not for Nick at first. He said he was going to keep it for years, and then he changed his mind. But
yeah,
I remember saying vividly, I would have kept the Pro Max if it was 120 hertz, and because it wasn't, I'm keeping the Mini. But next year, I will get the biggest screen with 120 hertz.
Right? Yeah. And because you also went into that mindset saying that like. Because of another stopgap, you wanted to treat every phone like a stopgap that I'm going to commit to this phone as if it's going to be the last phone I plan on upgrading for, so that way I get the most value out of it. You're not going to give yourself limitations on it. So the limitations that we kind of did artificially with the Mini was a challenge to ourselves because we came from the 11 Pros and we're like, oh my God, this is amazing. But then we're like, the 12 Pro feels pretty similar. So you know what? Let's commit with the Mini to prove a point that we could do more with less. Check. Then it became, I want to prove that I am okay with what I have, and I don't want to, kind of like half-ass it. I really want to commit to this now as my phone because of promotion, the bigger display, the best battery, and that was what the 13 Pro Max was for you. So we re-signed our challenges of like, let's only upgrade if we found it viable. To which I was like, Drew, I don't know. I can't promise I won't upgrade because I find myself being sold every year. But then there was a green iPhone. I was like, all right, never mind, I'm good. Nick was like, latest and greatest camera. That's all Nick cares about. He wants a better battery because of him being in the field like that. So we had different reasonings of what drives us, but the commitment was still the same, that like there was something that had to change our workflow to where you said fundamentally change the way I use my iPhone will get me to upgrade regardless. But that wasn't your deal breaker or deal maker. That was just something that say Apple Glass came out, but you with the latest one with the LiDAR phone, if the phone didn't have LiDAR, I need to get the LiDAR one so that way it can remap the room and I can project things on the wall. Something weird. Then that's what you would do. But you only did what you did about committing to the 13 Pro Max and saying that as a challenge to yourself, not to really anybody else, to say that like I'm gonna buy this phone like it's the phone that I'm gonna hold on to. And the off chance that it's the phone that I hold on to. Your mindset used to be, I'm upgrading every year regardless. And you changed your mindset to sell me on it. That's the only thing that changed. So you committing to the 256 gig because you wanted the higher ProRes and all that stuff, whether you found it valuable or not. You're like, I want this particular phone because I'm going to treat it as if I'm not going to be sold on the next one. Make your case. So you're kind of refining what you said last year, where it's like, I'm not just going to say I'm not doing it. It's incumbent to you, Apple, to sell me on it. You went from I will upgrade to make your case. And that's effectively what you said last year. We just kind of figured that the 14 was, because again, one more context piece to it. iPhone 14 is going to look like the iPhone 4. So you felt the need to be like, not only do I not believe that, I'm going to double down and say that I will keep the 13. Even if that was the case, I'm going to keep the 13.
That's true. That was a big topic around that time. Well, that topic has kind of died down now because it's become so clearly wrong. But at the time, everyone was saying, I'm skipping the 13 because I know the 14 is going to be such a big deal.
And you were proving a point then about like, you know what? Not only that, I'm going to keep the iPhone 13. Even if they did do all that, if all they did was re-change that and it was a flat back, I'm keeping the iPhone 13 Pro because it has everything that I need it to be. That's not enough to sell me on it. Sell me on it. That's basically what you're reaffirming this time going forward, that you're not committing to it, but you are committing to it. What would make you? So you asked me and Mike this. So let's close it off with you. What would make you?
So Mike will upgrade when he needs to, basically.
Yeah, I also gave a little bit of thought into it, and
okay,
something that I did miss in this cycle of having a 11 Pro and then skipping to the 14 Pro is I missed the minis. I never got to experience the minis. The closest I got to experiencing the minis was years ago with the 5S. So
beautiful.
Thinking about it, I mean, it doesn't help.
If they made a Pro Mini or
yes, done. It doesn't help the case of like a camera sensor this big, but either if there's a redesigning of the camera sensor that makes a Mini make sense for charging, in which you made me think about Drew and Randy with a foldable iPhone. It would be able to do that because one side would just be the camera sensor and then the other side's just the MagSafe ring. So then all you do is it's a flip, or it would be a flip.
Giant camera bump and then giant MagSafe ring.
Exactly, and it'd work. But I think that would be maybe the one upgrade that would be hard not to miss. Would be hard to miss.
That's a great answer.
Yes.
Randy's like, I changed my
that one.
A Mini Pro? A Mini Pro.
Would that get you to upgrade if there was a Mini Pro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not happening, but I do think if they did something like that, whether it folded or not, because I'm already living with a 14 Pro that doesn't fold and has a charging issue, I'd be fine with the Mini Pro. I mean, the battery thing would be terrible. Exactly. That's it. That's literally the Mini Pro.
It would just replace the Apple Watch part with a giant camera bump.
Exactly.
Make this
if they
even
stick
bigger.
With the same sensor. Yeah.
Give it a periscope lens, and then there's a screen on one side. That'd be kind of compact.
It'd basically be the dedicated camera that we all want Apple to make, but is disguised as a Mini. But yeah, I think I could.
My mind.
I could deal with the battery issues of like it discharging a bunch. I think in one waveform podcast, the Marquez put out like a mini iPhone or Mini Pro iPhone would be a really good mix and you'd be able to excuse its battery issues just because of the form factor and the design. In which I'd agree with that. Mm-hmm. But I don't think Apple has any need to unless they see how terrible the 14 Plus is this year and how much of a flop it is, and then they have to rethink everything. Mm-hmm. So it could be possible just because the 14 Plus is likely going to flop and they have to retool everything.
If there's if there's enough people asking for it, they'll do it, just like they broke the battery indicator.
Oh my goodness. We're not going to get on that, sure. You already had a whole stream about that.
Yeah, and I'm not changing my mind. I'm not. I promise. But do you guys have any last thoughts before we wrap up?
What makes you upgrade?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was trying to bypass the question.
Nope.
I don't think USB-C would do it for me, just because as much as I want it, and I think if you're going to have a port, you should have the best port, I pretty much just exclusively charge wirelessly at this point. I use the wireless charger in my car quite a lot, which thankfully works, which you gotta appreciate these days.
Stop flexing on me.
I don't think the mini iPhone charged in Randy's car either. So
nope. I had to prop it up on a little. I put my wallet underneath it, put my phone on it, and that's how I charged it for a year.
Yeah. So I feel lucky that I finally have a phone that charges in my car, and I just drop it there. So I already feel like my phone is normally at a higher percentage than usual, because pretty much any time I drive somewhere, I just drop my phone there. And when I'm at home, I use MagSafe Duo, so it's charging wirelessly pretty much all the time. And Ventura works great with a wire or without a wire, and I already have lightning cables. I genuinely have too many lightning cables, not enough USB-C cables. So while yes, I still think the iPhone should have USB-C, and I'm excited for that, I don't see how that feature alone would work into my current ecosystem unless Apple started getting into the whole Apple Dex approach pitch I have of docking the iPhone with a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse, and it can start to replace a Mac type setup. And maybe that's where the 3nm chips will start to shine, is like A16 was more about efficiency and just trying to preserve battery life. But if they made an iPhone Ultra or something where you could actually take advantage of higher wattage, higher processing intensive chips, maybe iPhone Ultra is when we see the M series of chips come to the iPhone, which people have memed about and joked about.
It's entirely possible.
But they said the same thing about iPads until it happened, and now everyone's like, well, yeah, of course you put the M1 in an iPad Air.
Well, yes.
Well, yes. Like, everyone said, they called me a madman. I said months before they did it that I think they're going to start putting M1 in iPad, and there were all these comments like, Drew, you don't know what you're talking about. M stands for Mac. No, they're going to give the iPad.
Drew's drinking the stupid juice again.
And then they did it.
MyPad.
Not only that, they put it in the non-iPad Pro. And the rumors of that were circulating, and all these people were commenting, no, that makes no sense. Of course not. They're just going to give it an iPhone chip like they always do. But nope. Those chips are cheap. So maybe if you get a phone big enough and you increase the thermal envelope, but whether it's a vapor chamber or not, I don't know what you got to put in there. But if there's demand, if there's a reason to justify a higher iPhone price, Apple will do it. It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be a reason. To be like, now your iPhone can be the best Mac is the one you have with you. But then, okay, even if they did that, would it be faster than my M1 Max chip in my MacBook? Probably not, at least for a while. It may be years before an iPhone chip starts to outperform my current MacBook Pro chip.
You're going to need some big thermals on that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to need to get to the 1nm process or something crazy like that. But as cool as it would be, I don't know if that, because, okay, even if they did that next year, I would have to buy a monitor specifically so that I could use that. And would the phone be basically slower than my MacBook? In which case, is it worth it at that point? So all that to fall back on what Mike said is they need to come up with something that I can't think of. I'm not like a diehard. I like the mini iPhones, but I don't think a mini Pro would convince me. Maybe if it, well, I guess if it's a Pro, it would have 120 hertz. So the only pushback I have with the mini is I know that the battery's going to be worse and it will deteriorate over time. And I could just charge it all the time, but again, it's what's wrong with my current iPhone? That's what I'm trying to encourage.
But if you dock it, your little mini Pro, and it does the DeX thing anyway, and it's charging it, and it's bad battery anyway, it fixes two problems at once.
And then they introduce battery management so it stays at 80%. So then you're not killing
kind of like what my phone's doing right
that?
now, literally right now, just sitting at 80, chilling.
I just want that in general. But when people keep asking me, like, should I upgrade? Or that's such a common question.
I never
should I
question.
buy the 14? My answer is never like, yes, you should. No, you shouldn't. It's always, what's the current state of your iPhone now? If you're asking me, I have a 13 Pro Max that's green that I bought 2 months ago. Should I buy the 14 Pro Max?
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, yes.
It's worth it.
Yeah. And you should convert
Drew's
one of them
experience.
to a dedicated webcam. But no, I'm like, if you're using an
Hey, wait a
iPhone
minute.
7 Plus,
Yeah.
and it's not getting you through the day, and the battery's crap, and you want a better camera, if you're in a terrible situation when your current iPhone can't get by, then yes, I'll say, sure, the 14 Pro is a worthy upgrade. So even if there was a Pro Mini, I would still find myself coming back to, what is wrong with this phone? What problem could be fixed by that phone that this phone can't do? And until they present me with that solution to the problem, I just
There's
don't.
no reason.
I just don't feel the desire to at this point. Yeah, I genuinely think it could be a 3-4 year thing, unless my mind just pivots back to that argument of what you said before. As a few years ago, I was of the mindset that I just needed to have the new iPhone every year, no matter what, no matter how small the change was, no matter how incremental.
Yeah,
I'm a tech channel guy, so I just need to have the latest and greatest. I don't care how minor a difference it is. And I wanted to push back on that because I felt like it was financially irresponsible and setting a bad example. So maybe in the future I'll decide to be less responsible and not care about the example I set. Because the hype around the community was fairly convincing, I'll admit. Like, you pre-order, you drive to the store, you get in line with everybody. They're all applauding as you walk in. All of that.
That means the marketing works. The psychology works of
it's
all
effective.
of it.
But I didn't quite fall for it. But yeah, I did feel the effects. It's like it's almost like a nicotine. It's you can know it's addictive. You can know
The
it's bad.
cocaine
And still
effect.
be like, that's too blue, pink, yellow. I don't care what kind of iPhone. Bring it in. Woo! Can we get Tuco on TV Plus? Vince Gilligan has signed a contract with TV Plus. So
Oh, that's right. We're doing tech. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, we should definitely talk more about that next week. Seems pretty exciting. I did also want to share. Here's my smartphone history.
Oh my God.
Stack. And
Sheesh.
my arm is feeling it. But holy cow. It's also pretty tough to balance and everything.
Put your hand down. You're getting tired. I just want to closing thought. Drew sent me the video earlier. For those who saw him doing the camera thing about the autofocus with the front-facing camera. My question, I just want to have. I don't know if you want to put the video up or not, but I saw it focus on your hand and then back to you. Did you go in to tap the screen to adjust it away from you to your background, or was it struggling to focus on you or the background?
I was holding it close to my face and then tapping the background so that it would focus behind me.
Then I will say just from what you sent me, I like what the autofocus is doing. I would like to see that improved on. I don't think it's
super noticeable, but
yeah,
you can see it.
Yeah. It's cool. I'm not saying it's not cool. It's cool. I would like to see that improved on. That might be something that really pushes me right now. in that current state, I can't be like, yeah, I want that one. But I like that direction of where it's going. I would like to see more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
enough.
thank you for sharing that.
Of course. I'm glad we got to test it before it goes back.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And I'm glad you got your phone, Mike. I'm glad you like it. I hope
I'll just be on this dynamic island alone, and that's okay.
Wilson. He's out there on his island. We're enjoying our peninsulas, thank you. But before we wrap up, I'm just gonna do my little voice acting here. You can look away from the video feed, everybody, because since the creator of Breaking Bad has signed a multi-season deal with TV Plus, I needed to come up with some jokes because this is a big overlap in my personal life. Apple and Vince Gilligan. Jesse, we need the new iPhone. I am the one who airdrops. I blocked the green bubbles for me. I was good at it. I liked it. Hey, better FaceTime Saul. Now, say my name. Tim Cook? You're goddamn right. Jesse, we need Tim Cook. And then MagSafe exists, and Jesse says, yeah, magnets!
Yo, Mr. White! Magnets!
Mr. White.
Mr.
I think these chips aren't efficient enough.
Yeah! Magnets!
Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.